The MK47, the newest rifle to be added to Delta Force in Season 6, and I've been playing with it extensively, obviously also with the lever action that I already made a video for, but I wanted to share my MK47 build as quickly as possible because I know a lot of people are looking for something that is actually viable, and I think I came up with something really solid here. And I tinkered with the build like probably for over an hour just in the gunsmith, trying to really min-max and see what I could do that was the best to have all the stats kind of well-rounded, except potentially the accuracy. I didn't focus so much on the accuracy, but I really wanted to control that really aggressive recoil pattern of the MK47, but not make the ADS time absolutely abysmal. So jumping into the gunsmith with a blank slate here, the first thing we're going to swap out is the barrel. So you have two options here, the short one or the long one. I simply chose to go with the long one. It gives you extra range, extra control, extra stability at the cost of handling, but we're going to make up for some of that. And then the accuracy, as I said, isn't too much of a focus here. For the muzzle, now I went with the new FFC double port muzzle brake. Now the MK47, as I said, has incredibly high recoil, and you definitely feel it even if it doesn't particularly shoot all that fast at 625 RPM. It kicks like an absolute mule, so you're going to really want to bump up that recoil control. I had tried with the Bastion just to mitigate some of that, horizontal recoil we can barely see here because there's so much vertical, but I ended up just going with this one. It felt a lot better to shoot, and bonus, this one increases the firing stability and the firing camera stability, which is very nice. For the foregrip, tried a few different ones here. I ended up landing on the Secret Order bevel foregrip. Now this one aggressively controls the horizontal recoil at the cost of increasing the vertical control a little bit. I tried different foregrips and this one just felt the best and most consistent overall. So just looking at it here, you can see it's correcting it a little bit from this bend here, but there's still pretty substantial vertical recoil, but we're gonna correct some of that as well. For the mag, I went with a 30 rounder. I felt like the 40 rounder for the -3 handling that it gave more and -1 stability wasn't all that worth it for just 10 extra rounds, so I just chose to go with this one with the mag assist. For the rear grip, I went with the Phantom rear grip to really keep that handling nice and high and keep the ADS time as snappy as possible, and it also gives you an extra 3 control, which is very nice. For the stock, we're going to go with the Skeleton Sniper stock. It's such a good stock, +8 handling, +6 stability, sorry. If you don't care about the accuracy, this stock is just like such a good one to have. So go ahead and install that. Then for the optic, I went with the RDS here of my choice, and then I went with 4X Ranger handguard panels to get more control out of the weapon to really help reduce that overall recoil that we're feeling when we're firing it. And then for the right rail, I went with the blue laser. That does increase the hip fire accuracy as well as the ADS speed. So for the calibration, for the barrel, I went with +50 grams, +10 millimeters to get extra muzzle velocity and extra firing stability. For the foregrip, we're going with +20 grams, -20 millimeters to get extra ADS movement speed, extra control. Stability when moving wasn't really too bad with the stability that we had on the weapon, so that's why I didn't mind tuning it down a little bit. For the rear grip, we're going +50 grams and -20 millimeters to get even more hip fire aim speed and extra control. For the stock, we're going with +50 grams and +2 slots to get extra aiming stability while breathing because I did bump it down quite a bit, and then extra control. And then finally for the optic, we're going with -20 millimeters in eye relief. So looking at the stats of the MK47 here before I start rambling on, the damage, you're doing 26 damage to the chest, 26 to the stomach, 23 to the limbs, and 52 to the head. So incredibly high headshot damage multiplier, 2x. Not sure why they reduced the damage to the limbs. I feel like the weapon isn't that good that it warrants having 3 less damage to the limbs, but potentially they felt like it did, but I really don't think this is necessary. I think 26 across the board and 52 to the head would be perfectly fine. For the control, you can see we corrected it a lot. As you can see here, it was just incredibly hard to control. We brought it down quite a bit. There's still a little bit of a bend here, but overall, it is much easier to control than base. And if you were to put more points in control, it would probably be at the cost of handling or stability, and I really didn't want to do that. For the handling here, we lost 8, but we still have an ADS speed of 379 milliseconds. Take 50 off for the laser, so it brings it down to a respectable 329 milliseconds. For the stability, we bumped it up by 10 to really keep that lens stability while firing high, and also keep the recoil reduction when holding breath high as well, even though we kind of reduced it through the calibration. And then finally for the accuracy, not a main focus here. So to unlock the MK47, you have to go to the events tab and then go to season. As you can see here, new weapon MK47. So you have a mission for operations or warfare. If we go to warfare here, you need to complete 3 missions. You need to earn 10,000 score in warfare, then 30,000 score in warfare, and finally 60,000 score in warfare in order to get enough to unlock the MK47. For the FFC double port muzzle brake, you need to go to the armory, make sure that's the one that you have active currently. So if we click here, this is the FFC double port muzzle brake, so I already unlocked it, but make sure you have that one active to work towards unlocking it. So you need to complete 3 attack and defend or King of the Hill matches, score 10,000 points as an assault operator, and then kill 20 enemy operators from within 20 meters. And in order to use this specific MK47 build, you will need to level it up to 53. I just used a bunch of weapon XP tokens because if you're like me and you've been playing for a while, you probably have a ton saved up, so I would just max it out unless you really like grinding weapon levels. So the MK47 is unfortunately only available to the engineer class, and as I said, the damage model is a little bit weird. I don't feel like it's warranted to have 23 damage to the limbs, considering how difficult the weapon is to control. It just, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. It would be much more competitive if you did 26 across the board and then 52 to the head, but damn, when you're getting those headshots mixed in, it is just incredibly fun. You are just deleting people within like half a second, even less, right? So the TTK on this thing, when you're getting headshots consistently, is like through the roof. It's comparable to like the AUG, albeit the AUG does fire slightly faster than the MK47, but yeah, this weapon is a lot of fun to use, and I was just having an absolute blast. It feels chunky and satisfying to actually fire it, but yeah, if you're not putting the right attachments on there, you are going to have a terrible time using this weapon. I had tried with the short barrel, with the X25U angled combat grip, the Bastion, the vertical Sandstorm vertical compensator. I tried to put every attachment under the sun on this thing. I tried a ton of different builds, and yeah, the one that ended up performing the best for me is the one that I presented to all of you today. And keep with it, like you're gonna kind of have to play around the slowish ADS, albeit we still did keep it quite high to be able to compete with people that are, you know, running builds that have potentially even faster ADS time. So even if you come up against somebody that is really CQB, you're probably still going to have the time to ADS without dying first. But yeah, you really have to play around the weapon. And even though we put a ton of points in control, it's still going to be a little bit rough. You're going to have to get used to that control and the recoil pattern. But once you do, you can just perform absolutely fantastic with it. I was having a blast playing with as Shepherd on Knife Edge, got a lot of that, and also on Cracked was getting some pretty cracked plays. Yeah, that was a nice little pun there. I'll pat myself on the back for that one. But as usual, the weapon share code for the build will be in the description down below as well in the top pinned comment. In any case, I'll leave you with a few highlight clips of me using this specific build. But yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.
Enemy neutralized! Shot set. The trap is triggered.